there are maybe 200. And the other thing about Wenzel, which is sort of like what they're interested in juxtaposing, having this sort of small international biennial up against this really like Catholic Christian court, community-oriented state or canton. They're very sort of old-fashioned and like simple people, and they pride themselves on that. And funny or depressing story is they used to vote, or they still vote, but they would vote in the town center by holding up umbrellas, and the men would hold up one color of umbrella, and then the other men voting against it would vote that way. And for a very long time, women didn't have the vote. As a matter of fact, they had the federal vote, but they didn't have the vote until 1990 to vote in any sort of thing called direct democracy, which is any sort of public work or building or anything. For instance, if they want the Olympics, we could vote against that. In Chicago, we don't have direct democracy, so we've got daily instead. They could say we want to have the Olympics, and they'd have to get a certain percentage of the people to actually say, yes, we want to do that. So that was the same thing with the Central and Paul Clay. They wanted to build that there, and they had to make the case to the people and had to have a referendum to actually build the museum. But in Appenzell, women couldn't vote that way until the 90s when it came up for vote, and the person telling me the story said, it was horrible because we didn't even have the chance to save our face and have the men vote and say, yes, women should have a vote. They voted it down in 1990, and then the federal government said, no way. This is the way things are, and everyone can vote now. So that's sort of a little Appenzell story. There's Peter Stoffel showing us where the Edelweiss should have been. Hopefully it will get installed someday, but they were still negotiating at the time. And then there he's showing where we were going to hike to, which is, we hiked up the mountain, and you can see you would hike through clouds. Took a vast cable car. There it is looking over the precipice. And we spent the night in the guest house. But it was totally worth it because there were amazing views like this. Then on the way back, we stopped back in St. Gallen to go to the Kunsthal, which has as a logo a smiling wiener sausage and a fascist with the axe wrapped in a bundle of sticks. This is the artist who is on view, David Zink-Yi, who's a Peruvian artist that's now based, I think, in Frankfurt. He's based somewhere in Germany. The title of the show was Borrowed Light. These palm trees made of stainless steel and aluminum are titled Neusilber, which is new silver. And then there was this photograph that looked like it was in a light box. But actually, when you went outside into the courtyard where we had another fun barbecue, you could see through the window that actually they cut a hole in the wall, and the light providing the light box was natural. Following this, we went to they planned, part of having people come to Bern is to show off the cultural value of Bern and then also Switzerland in general, so that's why we went to Appenzell and so forth. We went to the University of Bern, which has a pretty nice art school with a lot of excellent facilities, and I'll show you mainly the conservation area because those were the best pictures, and it's also really interesting. This is their contemporary art conservation center, where they teach people how to restore monitors and so forth. You can see the old bubble spaceman helmet TVs, the old Macs, really old televisions, and so this is where people who are going to be fixing Nam-June Pike study and learn how to actually fix vintage 50s and 60s televisions and so forth. And the chief conservator said, we have a saying that there's no such thing as a broken monitor, there's only a monitor with issues. So it's never broken, and even if you can't fix it, it just means you couldn't get the parts or you couldn't get enough old copies to build one working piece out of. This is their perpetual motion machine. And this is an actual thing. That's a joke, I don't know what that was, but it looked like a perpetual motion machine. These are actually real. They're called time accelerators. So if you put your hand in there, it ages several years. They teach. This is another thing they teach students how to build, is that when they're testing the archival quality of material, they'll have to build things like this to see how will video stand up if it were in direct sunlight, or how will different pieces of equipment or different materials last over long years of natural light exposure and so forth. So there were two sitting there running an experiment. They also have traditional lab, so here's all their chemicals and pigments, and Renaissance painting being worked on. In Bern, you can take your dog on the bus. This is the head of the bank and his sidekick. Because Teardad, in his interest of transparency and how money flows through the art world, wanted us to actually sit down and meet this bank that has done this very unique thing, which is to support the Summer Academy, which is very strange because it's a very open project, and they basically pick a curator and they let them do what they want and propose a project and so forth. So in our case, like not having an exhibition, there was no product, no production involved, but they were totally right behind us and wanted us to go forth. And their philosophy, it is also a marketing philosophy, but the idea is that to make Bern an international city means having international culture and having people come, artists and so forth, to participate and see what the city has to offer, and then also to be a site for a meeting of minds. And their sort of development sponsorship strategy was they were more interested in building something like that than in building that reputation, that institution, rather than funding a wing of the Renzo Piano building or funding the auditorium. They wanted to do something slightly different. There you can see the dolphins of their corporate culture, which I'm so glad someone got a picture of that, because that was totally sincere. This is a piece by Merritt Oppenheim. It's this strange fountain located in the center of Bern. The Art Museum, which is kind of like their art institute, the more modern and early 20th, 1800s, Renaissance, all the way back, that collection of art has a pretty significant number of Merritt Oppenheim pieces, but this one by far is the most amazing, and it's just right in downtown, and there's always water flowing off it. You can see the sludge. It's a very strange, amazing object because it's just dripping water all the time, and there's all these sort of ecosystems growing off of it. Our last art stop was at the Kunsthalle Bern, which you may have heard of. It was the site of Harold Zeman's famous, and I want to say it right in the right order, When Attitudes Become Form, because I always say when forms become attitude or so forth, but that was a major show for Europe. It introduced a lot of minimalists and post-minimalists and pop artists, and it is cited as a major exhibition. So as an art dork, it's like very exciting to go to this really important place, and then also that it's in this like kind of sleepy, quaint town, this site of really important art development. So the show that was up was called The Conspiracy, organized by Philippe Perrault, who's the current director, which is another sort of interesting approach the Kunsthalle Bern has, in that they have rotating directors. So they're there for a finite period, 5 years, 10 years, or so on. So they're always rotating in new directors, and they kind of bring their flair and their sort of interest in certain types of art or exhibition strategies. So this was his group show. The work here we're seeing is by Anina Mater, who's from Bern but is a Frankfurt-based artist doing installation work. These are photos with paint on them by Narcisse Tourbois, a Belgian artist, who's invested in different strategies of painting as performance. And this series is based on Goya's Capriccios, where he invited a photographer and performance friends